Soft silence settles like snow upon a temple roof. Welcome, dear traveler of the night. You have arrived at a sacred threshold where the day's burdens may be set down like worn sandals at the entrance to a monastery. Here, in this quiet sanctuary, of words we gather not as strangers, but as fellow seekers on the endless path toward peace. Before we begin this gentle journey together, if these whispered teachings bring comfort to your weary heart, perhaps you might offer a small kindness. In return, subscribe to this humble channel, leave a gentle like as you would leave an offering of lotus petals, and in the comments below, share with us the corner of this vast world from which you listen tonight. Are you beneath the northern lights, or perhaps where the Southern Cross watches over your dreams? We are all connected by this moment, this breath, this shared longing for rest. The evening air carries the scent of jasmine and possibility. Tonight, we walk together down a moonlit path where cherry blossoms drift like thoughts released, where an ancient monk's footsteps echo softly through bamboo groves, and where incense curls upward like prayers dissolving into starlight. This is a place where time moves differently, not in the rushing current of day, but in the gentle rhythm of a heart. At Peace. Our theme tonight whispers an ancient truth. Focus on yourself, not others. Focus on your life. But these words do not speak of selfishness or isolation. No, they speak of something far more profound, the sacred act of tending your own inner garden before attempting to tend the gardens of the world. Imagine, if you will, a lotus flower in a still pond. It does not concern itself with the reeds beside it, nor judge the lily pads for their different shape. It simply grows, rooted in the mud, yet reaching toward light, becoming fully itself in perfect, unhurried time. This is the wisdom we explore. Tonight, the art of becoming authentically, peacefully, gloriously yourself. Settle deeper into your pillow. Let your breath become like evening mist. What is the sound of peace before thought arrives? This gentle riddle drifts through the night air like smoke from a temple brazier, carrying with it the wisdom of countless seekers who have walked this path before us. Imagine yourself sitting beside a mountain stream, where water flows over smooth stones worn perfect by time. The stream knows nothing of the ocean it will someday meet. It simply flows, present to each curve, each gentle fall, each moment of its own becoming dot in the forest of our daily lives. We often find ourselves listening to the wrong sounds. We strain to hear the footsteps of others, comparing our pace to theirs. We attune our ears to their laughter, their sorrows, their achievements, measuring our own worth against their distant melodies. But what if we were to close our eyes and listen instead to the sound beneath all sounds, the quiet hum of our own existence, the gentle rhythm of our own heart? The moon rises through pine branches, casting patterns of light and shadow. There was once a young monk who spent his days watching other monks in meditation. Look how still Brother Lee sits, he would think. See how peaceful Sister May appears. Why can I not achieve such serenity? His teacher, an elderly woman with eyes like calm water, noticed his distraction. One evening, she led him to a garden where night-blooming cereus flowers were about to open. Watch, she whispered, as they sat in silence. Hour by hour, the magnificent white blooms unfurled, each in its own time, each following its own mysterious inner clock. Some opened with the first touch of moonlight, others waited until the deep hours before dawn. None looked to its neighbor for permission to bloom. Each flower, the teacher said softly, knows only the season of its own becoming. It does not measure its petals against another's, nor does it judge its timing. It simply opens when opening is what it must do. Cricket songs weave through the darkness like silver threads. The young monk understood then that his spiritual practice had become a performance, measured against an audience of his peers, rather than flowing from the truth of his own heart. He had forgotten the fundamental teaching that enlightenment is not a competition, but a homecoming to the self that was always already present, waiting patiently beneath the layers of comparison and judgment. This is the gentle paradox we encounter again and again on the spiritual path. The more we focus on others' journeys, the further we drift from our own. Like a compass that has lost its true north, we spin in endless circles, never quite finding our direction. But when we return our attention to the sacred ground of our own experience, suddenly the path becomes clear again, illuminated by the soft inner light that has never stopped shining. A temple bell rings once in the distance, its sound dissolving into silence. Tonight, as you rest here in this quiet space, perhaps you might ask yourself, what would it feel like to release the weight of others' expectations? What would remain if you could no longer see yourself reflected in anyone else's eyes? In that space of not knowing, in that fertile darkness, what might begin to grow? Rain begins to fall softly on temple tiles, each drop a small offering to the earth dot. In the ancient texts of the Buddha, there exists a teaching as gentle as morning dew, yet as profound as the ocean's depths. It speaks of a truth that our modern hearts, weary from the endless noise of comparison and competition, desperately need to remember. The teaching is simple, whispered across 25 centuries like a lullaby. Be a lamp unto yourself. Picture, if you will, a village nestled in the mountains of old Tibet. The winter nights are long and dark, and each home glows with the warm light of yak butter lamps. No household looks to another's window to measure the brightness of their own flame. Each lamp burns according to its own oil, its own wick, its own quiet purpose to illuminate the space around it, to provide warmth and comfort to those within its gentle circle of light. The sound of prayer wheels turning slowly in the distance. The Buddha spoke these words to his beloved disciple Ananda as he lay dying beneath the sala trees. Atadipa Viharada, dwell with yourself as your own island, your own refuge. Not because the world is empty of teachers or wisdom, but because the deepest truths can only be lived from within. Like a seed that carries within itself the entire potential of the mighty oak, you carry within yourself everything needed for your own awakening. In our modern world, we have forgotten this ancient art of self-refuge. We scroll through endless feeds, measuring our inner weather against the curated storms and sunshine of others. We have become like moths drawn to every light except our own, forgetting that we too carry an inner flame that needs no comparison. To burn brightly, a temple cat walks silently across moonlit stones, completely present to each step. There is a beautiful teaching from the Zen tradition about a master who was asked, "What is Buddha?" Without hesitation, he replied, 3 pounds of flax. The students were puzzled by this seemingly mundane answer. What could flax, simple, ordinary fiber, used to make cloth, have to do with the highest spiritual realization? But this is precisely the point. The sacred is not found by looking beyond yourself to some distant ideal, but by fully inhabiting whatever you are in this very moment. The Buddha nature does not exist somewhere else, in someone else's meditation hall or spiritual achievement. It exists here now, in the simple fact of your breathing, in the quiet beating of your heart, in the way your consciousness gently holds these words like a cupped palm holds water. Wind chimes sing their ancient song in the temple courtyard. The Vietnamese Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh once taught that when you wash dishes, don't wash them to get them clean, wash them to wash them. When you breathe, don't breathe to achieve some special state, breathe to breathe. When you live your life, don't live it to become someone else. Live it to live it, fully, completely, as only you can. This is not selfishness. This is the deepest form of service. For only when you tend your own inner garden with complete attention can you offer its fruits to the world. Only when you have made peace with your own storms can you become shelter for others caught in theirs. Only when you have learned to love the particular imperfect, beautiful shape of your own existence can you love others without trying to reshape them in your image? A night heron stands perfectly still by the temple pond, teaching patience through its simple presence. The ancient Sutra of Golden Light speaks of each being as a unique facet of an infinite jewel, each reflecting the same divine light in its own unrepeatable way. Your reflection is not more or less precious than another's. It is simply yours, the one angle of light that only you can offer to the wholeness of existence. In the Tibetan tradition, there is a practice called taking and giving, Tonglen, where you breathe in suffering and breathe out relief. But before you can truly practice this for others, you must first learn to do it for yourself. You must breathe in your own pain, your own confusion, your own sense of not being enough, and breathe out compassion for the one who struggles you. This is not self-indulgence. This is the foundation of all genuine compassion. The temple bell tower stands silent against the star-filled sky, its wooden beams weathered by countless seasons. The temple bell tower stands silent against the star-filled sky, its wooden beams weathered by countless seasons. As sleep begins to call to you, like a gentle teacher beckoning you deeper into wisdom. Remember this: the path to peace does not lie in perfecting yourself according to someone else's map. It lies in the courageous act of meeting yourself exactly where you are, with the same tenderness you would offer a beloved friend who has traveled far and is finally ready to rest. In a monastery high in the mountains of old Korea, where winter mists clung to pine trees like the breath of sleeping dragons, there lived a monk whose name has been forgotten by history, but whose story illuminates the darkness still. Let us call him Brother Quiet Heart, for that is what he became, though it was not what he began as. Brother Quiet Heart arrived at the monastery as a young man, burning with spiritual ambition. His robes were pristine, his meditation posture perfect, his chanting voice clear and strong. He had memorized countless sutras and could debate the finer points of Dharma with scholarly precision. Yet despite all his accomplishments, peace eluded him like morning mist disappearing at the first touch of sun. The sound of wooden clappers echoes across the valley, calling the monks to evening meditation. Each day, Brother Quiet Heart would observe his fellow monks with the intensity of a scholar studying sacred texts. Brother Moonface seemed to radiate joy even while sweeping leaves. Why could he not find such contentment in simple tasks? Sister Clearwater sat in meditation with the stillness of ancient stone. Why did his own mind jump like a cricket in a jar? Master Gentle Thunder spoke Dharma with such eloquence that visitors wept. Why did his own words feel hollow in his mouth? The more he compared, the more his inner fire dimmed. He was like a candle trying to burn with the flame of every other candle in the temple, forgetting that each flame burns according to its own nature, its own wick, its own small portion of wax. A temple cat curls up near the dying embers of the evening fire, completely at peace with being exactly what it is. One autumn evening, as golden leaves drifted like prayers through the temple courtyard, Brother Quiet Heart sat with his teacher beneath the ancient ginkgo tree. The old master was mending his robes by moonlight, his gnarled fingers moving with patient precision. "Master," the young monk said, his voice heavy with frustration, "I have practiced for 5 years, yet I feel further from enlightenment than when I began." Brother Moonface finds joy in simple tasks. Sister Clearwater achieves perfect stillness. Master Gentle Thunder speaks wisdom that moves hearts. What am I doing wrong? The old teacher continued his mending, saying nothing. A cricket began to sing nearby, joined by another, then another, until the night was filled with their chorus. Finally, the master spoke. "Do you hear the crickets, my son?" "Yes, master. Each one sings its own song." "Does the cricket in the grass wish it had a voice of the cricket in the tree? Does the cricket by the pond envy the cricket by the stone?" The temple bell rings softly in the distance, its bronze voice carrying across sleeping valleys. Brother Quiet Heart listened more carefully. Indeed, each cricket sang with its own pitch, its own rhythm, its own small but perfect melody. Together, they created a symphony, but none was trying to mimic another. "But Master," he said, "they are only crickets. We are seekers of the way." The old teacher smiled, tying off his thread. "Yes, and the way is not a race with winners and losers. It is not a uniform that fits all bodies the same way. The way is like water. It takes the shape of whatever vessel contains it. Your vessel, dear friend, is uniquely yours." He set down his mending and looked directly into the young monk's eyes. Brother Moonface finds joy in simple tasks because his heart is naturally light, like a bird that sings because singing is its nature. Sister Clearwater achieves stillness because her mind is naturally quiet, like a deep lake that reflects the sky. Master Gentle Thunder speaks moving words because wisdom flows through him like a river through its chosen bed. Night blooming. Jasmine releases its fragrance into the darkness, asking nothing in return. "But what of me, Master? What is my nature?" The old teacher gestured to the mended robe in his lap. "You came to me tonight troubled by comparison, yet you stayed to help me see my stitches in the dim light. You hold my wool while I wind it, though I did not ask. You notice when the temple cats need food, when the prayer flags are torn, when a fellow monk sits alone with sadness. You think this is not enlightenment, because it is quiet, because it draws no attention to itself." Brother Quiet Heart felt something shift in his chest, like ice beginning to melt in spring sunshine. "Your way," the master continued, "is the way of quiet service, of seeing what needs to be done and doing it without fanfare. Like the moon that lights the path without announcing its presence, like the earth that supports all life without claiming credit. This too is Buddha nature, this gentle attention to what is needed, this love that asks for no recognition." An owl calls once from the forest, its voice both lonely and complete. From that night forward, Brother Quiet Heart stopped trying to meditate like Sister Clearwater or serve like Brother Moonface. Instead, he began to notice the particular way his own attention moved through the world, drawn naturally to the spaces where help was needed, to the moments when a gentle presence could ease suffering, to the small repairs that kept the monastery running smoothly. He discovered that his meditation was not the stillness of deep water, but the alert presence of a shepherd watching over his flock. His joy was not the bright laughter of morning, but the quiet satisfaction of evening when all was well and in its place. His wisdom was not the flowing river of eloquent Dharma talks, but the steady spring of practical kindness that never ran dry. The temple settles into deeper silence as the night grows older and more mysterious. Years passed. Brother Quiet Heart aged into Brother Deep Peace, and then into Master Hidden Light. Visitors would come seeking the most enlightened teacher in the monastery, expecting someone who glowed with obvious holiness. Instead, they would find a gentle old man who listened with complete attention, who somehow knew exactly what tea to serve, who could mend not only robes, but hearts with the same patient, invisible skill. The other monks would smile when visitors asked, "But who is your most realized teacher?" They would point to Master Hidden Light sweeping the courtyard or feeding the temple cats, and say, "They're the one who never stopped being exactly who he was meant to be." Your breath deepens as this ancient story settles into your heart like seeds in fertile soil. The monastery sleeps now, but consciousness remains soft, aware, like starlight touching still water. Come now, dear friend, let us turn our attention inward, away from the stories of others, and toward the vast, unexplored territory of your own being. Like a traveler who has wandered far in foreign lands and finally finds the path home, we begin the most intimate journey of all, the pilgrimage to the sanctuary of your own heart. Close your eyes gently, as if you were drawing curtains made of silk across windows that have been open too long to the busy world outside. Feel how your eyelids settle like evening mist upon your vision, creating a sacred darkness where inner light can finally be seen. This is not the darkness of absence, but the fertile darkness of presence, where all things rest before they are. Born. With each breath, you become the stillness between thoughts. Notice now how your breath moves without your effort, like a prayer that prays itself, like a song the body sings without needing to learn the words. The inhale rises like incense smoke, carrying with it all the day's accumulated tensions, all the ways you have tried to be what others expected, all the energy spent measuring yourself against external standards. And the exhale descends like blessing, releasing these burdens into the infinite compassion of space itself. You are not your breath, yet you are intimate with it in a way that requires no explanation, no comparison, no validation from anyone else. This breath has been with you since your first cry in the world, and it will accompany you to your last gentle sigh. It asks nothing of you but presence. It offers nothing but life itself, moment by precious moment, drifting now, floating into presence, like a leaf settling onto the surface of a mountain lake. Become aware of the space around your thoughts, not the thoughts themselves, which flutter and dart like small birds, but the vast sky of awareness in which they appear and disappear. This awareness has no edges, no boundaries that you can find. It is not yours in the way that possessions are yours, yet it is more intimately you than anything you could ever claim to own. In this space, there is no need to be better than you are, no need to achieve some state that belongs to someone else. You are not meditating to become enlightened like the masters you have read about. You are not breathing to achieve the peace that seems to come so easily to others. You are simply here, simply aware, simply present to the miracle of your own existence in this eternal now. Like a temple bell whose sound continues long after the striker has fallen away, your presence echoes in dimensions you cannot name. Feel how your body rests, each part of it settling deeper into the support beneath you. Your shoulders, which have carried so much effort to be worthy, to be enough, to measure up, let them soften, now like snow melting in spring sunshine. Your jaw, which has held so many words unspoken, so many judgments about whether you were succeeding or failing on your spiritual path, let it release its grip. Let the muscles remember their natural state of ease. This body of yours has never needed to compete with any other body to justify its existence. It has pumped your blood faithfully, healed your wounds quietly, carried you through countless days and nights without asking for appreciation or recognition. It is a temple that needs no comparison to other temples to be sacred, a home that needs no validation from other homes to be worthy of love. Sinking deeper now into the ocean of your own being, where the waves of comparison cannot reach. In the deepest chambers of the heart, there lives a presence that has never been touched by the opinions of others, never been wounded by unfavorable comparisons, never been diminished by your failures or inflated by your successes. This presence simply is, like the North Star that remains constant while all other stars wheel around it in their ancient dance. Buddhist teachers call this your Buddha nature, your inherent awakeness that needs no awakening, your perfection that exists prior to any improvement. It is not something you achieve through spiritual practice. It is what makes spiritual practice possible. It is not something you become. It is what you have always been, beneath the layers of conditioning that taught you to look outside yourself for proof of your worth. Rest here now in the boundless space of your own true nature. This Buddha nature does not compare itself to other Buddha natures because it recognizes that there is only one Buddha nature appearing as countless unique expressions. Like the ocean that appears as countless waves, each wave distinct yet never separate from the whole, your essential being is both uniquely yours and universally shared. From this place of deep recognition, the whole question of focusing on yourself versus others reveals itself as a gentle misunderstanding. There is no others to focus on or avoid focusing on. There is only this one life, this one awareness, this one love appearing as the beautiful diversity of all existence. When you tend to your own inner garden, you are tending to the one garden. When you make peace with your own storms, you are making peace with the one storm that appears as many. Your heartbeat joins, the ancient rhythm that connects all living things. Let yourself sink now into the profound ordinariness of this moment. You are not having a special spiritual experience. You are not achieving some elevated state that will prove your worth. You are simply being what you have always been, pure awareness resting in itself, like space that needs no objects to be. Complete, like silence that needs no sounds to be full. This is your true meditation, not the effort to become someone else, but the gradual remembering of who you have always been. Not the striving to reach some distant shore, but the recognition that you have never left home. Not the achievement of peace, but the discovery that peace is your very nature, the ground from which all seeking arises, and to which it returns, in this sacred darkness. You are both the seeker and the sought, the question and the answer, the path and the destination. In the deepest part of night, when even the temple cats have found their secret places to dream, the most mysterious teachings begin to whisper. There exists in the ancient traditions a collection of stories so strange, so playfully profound, that they slip past the mind's defenses like moonlight through bamboo leaves. These are the hidden gems of wisdom, the gentle surprises that the masters tucked away like Easter eggs in the vast garden of Dharma, waiting for the right moment, the right heart, the right quality of darkness to reveal their luminous secrets. Listen now to the tale of Master Empty Cup, who lived in a small hermitage where the mountain met the sky. Visitors would journey for days to seek his teachings, arriving dusty and eager, their minds full of questions about enlightenment, about the proper way to meditate, about how to achieve the peace that seemed to radiate from him like warmth from a hidden fire. A night owl calls from the forest, its voice both question and answer in the darkness. Each visitor would be invited to sit for tea, and Master Empty Cup would produce an exquisite porcelain cup, delicate as morning frost, beautiful beyond description. He would begin to pour the tea, a golden stream that caught the candlelight like liquid amber. But here was the mystery. He would continue pouring even after the cup was full, letting the precious tea spill onto the wooden table, drip onto the floor, pool around their feet. "Master," they would cry, "the cup is overflowing." And Master Empty Cup would smile, setting down the teapot with infinite gentleness. "Yes," he would say, "just like your mind. How can I pour new understanding into a vessel that is already full of old ideas about what enlightenment should look like?" The sound of tea dripping in the silence, each drop a small teaching falling into emptiness. This is the first hidden truth, dear friend, that the spiritual path begins not with accumulation, but with emptying, not with learning more, or with unlearning the stories that keep you from recognizing what has always been present. You cannot focus on your own life while your inner cup overflows with comparisons, judgments, and second-hand wisdom about what your life should be. In the Zen temples of old Japan, there lived a master who answered every question with the same response. Whether asked about the nature of Buddha, the meaning of suffering, or the path to liberation, he would simply smile, not the polite smile of social courtesy, but something deeper, more mysterious, like the smile of moonlight on water or wind. Moving through tall grass. Students traveled from across the country to test him, certain that their particularly clever question would finally provoke a verbal response. Scholars brought their most complex koans, philosophers their most tangled paradoxes, seekers their most heartfelt pleas for guidance. Still, only that gentle smile, that wordless teaching that seemed to contain all answers and no answers simultaneously. Bamboo creaked softly in the night wind, teaching flexibility without speaking. Years passed. Some students left in frustration, declaring the master a fraud. Others stayed, gradually learning to ask their questions, not with their mouths, but with their whole being. Not seeking answers, but resting in the profound, not knowing that the smile invited them to explore. These students discovered something extraordinary, that the master's silence was not empty but full, not rejection, but the deepest possible acceptance, not withholding wisdom but offering it in its purest form. One autumn evening, as red leaves drifted like prayers through the temple courtyard, a young monk finally understood. The master's smile was not his teaching. It was the teaching of his own true nature reflected back to him. The master was not withholding answers. He was showing him that he himself was the answer he had been seeking. The silence was not empty. It was pregnant with the recognition that the deepest truths cannot be spoken, only lived. This is the second hidden truth, that the greatest teachers do not give you something new, but help you recognize what you have never actually lost. In this mountains of Tibet, there once lived a hermit known as the Laughing Sage. Unlike other masters who spoke of the difficulties of the path, the obstacles to overcome, the ego to dissolve, he spoke only of the cosmic joke at the heart of existence. Pilgrims would arrive, prepared for serious teachings about suffering and impermanence, and instead find themselves doubled over with laughter, truths so obvious they had spent lifetimes overlooking them. "You seek to find yourself," he would chuckle, his eyes twinkling like stars. "But who is doing the seeking? You want to become enlightened, but who wants this? You wish to focus on your own life instead of others, but who is there to focus? And what life is there that is separate from the one life appearing as everything?" A temple cat stretches luxuriously in sleep, teaching the art of being exactly what you are without apology. The Laughing Sage would point to the butter lamps flickering in the shrine room. See how each flame burns without comparing itself to others? See how it doesn't try to be brighter or dimmer, doesn't worry about whether it's burning correctly? It simply burns completely, with nothing held back and nothing added. This is your Buddha nature, this natural, effortless, being exactly what you are. But here was the deepest joke of all. The more seriously people took their spiritual seeking, the further they moved from the simple, natural enlightenment that was their birthright. Like someone frantically searching for their glasses, while wearing them, they exhausted themselves looking for what was already present, already perfect, already at peace. This is the third hidden truth, that the spiritual path is not about becoming something other than what you are, but about relaxing so completely into what you are that the question of comparison with others simply dissolves. In a monastery garden where lotus flowers bloomed in 1,000 different shades, there grew one particular lotus that the monks called the ordinary one. It was not the largest, not the most fragrant, not the most perfectly formed. Its petals were a simple white, touched with the faintest blush of pink. Yet this was the lotus that the old abbot loved most, the one he would sit beside for hours, in silent meditation. When students asked why he favored such an unremarkable flower, the abbot would reply, "Because it has never tried to be anything other than exactly what it is. It blooms in its own time, in its own way, with its own simple beauty." It teaches the most profound dharma of all, that ordinariness is sacred, that being yourself completely is the highest spiritual achievement. Rain begins to fall gently on the temple roof, each drop finding its own perfect path to the earth. The students would look again at the ordinary one, and slowly begin to see what the abbot saw, that its very ordinariness was extraordinary, that its lack of pretension was a form of profound wisdom, that its contentment with being exactly itself was the most radical teaching in the entire garden. This is the fourth hidden truth, that your own ordinary life, lived with complete presence and acceptance, is the most sacred text you will ever read. the most profound teaching you will ever receive. As sleep draws closer like a gentle teacher approaching. With soft footsteps, let these hidden truths settle into your heart like seeds planted in fertile darkness. You need not understand them with your mind. Let them work their quiet magic in the deeper chambers of your being, where all true transformation takes place. Your breath becomes a prayer that prays itself, your heartbeat a mantra that needs no repetition. The night deepens like meditation itself, each moment settling more fully into the eternal now. In the soft geography of dreams and half-sleep, where thoughts move like clouds across an infinite sky, we come now to explore the most tender of all spiritual territories, the relationship you have with yourself. For how can you truly focus on your own life if that life is held in the harsh grip of self-judgment? How can you tend your inner garden if you approach it with the tools of criticism rather than compassion? Picture, if you will, a river that has flowed for countless centuries through a mountain valley. This river has never once stopped to judge the direction of its flow, never criticized itself for not being straighter like the rivers in the plains, never wished it could run uphill like the waterfalls it admires from afar. It simply flows, following the natural contours of the landscape, embracing each bend and curve as part of its perfect, unrepeatable journey to the sea. Water sounds drift through the darkness, the eternal song of flowing, accepting, becoming. You, dear friend, are like this river. Your life has carved its own unique path through the landscape of existence, shaped by circumstances as various as the rocks and valleys that guide a river's course. Some of these circumstances you chose, others were chosen for you. Some brought swift currents of joy, others the slow, deep pools of sorrow. All of them, without exception, have contributed to the particular beauty of your journey. Yet how often do you stand on the banks of your own life like a harsh critic, pointing out where the water should have flowed differently, where the current should have been stronger or gentler, where the path should have been more like the rivers you see in others' landscapes? This criticism, however well-intentioned, is like throwing stones into a river and then condemning it for the ripples that result. A temple bell rings once across the water, its sound dissolving into acceptance. In the ancient teachings of loving kindness, there is a practice so simple it seems almost childish, yet so profound it can transform the very foundations of how you inhabit your life. It begins with placing your hand upon your heart, not the heart of flesh and blood, but the heart of hearts, a tender center where your deepest self resides like a vulnerable child, waiting to be held. Feel that gentle warmth beneath your palm. Now the soft rise and fall of breath, the faithful rhythm that has accompanied you through every moment of your existence. This heart has loved imperfectly, but genuinely, has made mistakes born of ignorance rather than malice, has done its best with the understanding available at each stage of your journey. Moonlight streams through temple windows, illuminating the altar of your own precious being. Now, as if speaking to a beloved friend who has traveled far and needs comfort, whisper these words into the darkness of your own heart. May I be happy. May I be peaceful. May I be free from unnecessary suffering. May I live with ease. Do not worry if the words feel strange at first, if some part of you protests that you don't deserve such kindness, that you should first fix all your flaws before offering yourself such gentle blessing. This resistance is like the riverbed temporarily slowing the water's flow, natural, understandable, but not permanent. Let the words flow around this resistance, like water around stones, finding their way to the deeper places where you're true. Nature waits. In the soft repetition of these phrases, something ancient and healing begins to awaken. The Buddha spoke of 4 kinds of love that, when cultivated, transform not only the one who practices them, but ripple outward like circles on still water. The first is metta-loving kindness, the wish for all beings to be happy. But this love, the teachers remind us, must begin at home, in the temple of your own heart. Or it becomes merely a beautiful idea floating on the surface of life, rather than a lived reality that changes everything it touches. When you offer yourself the same gentle patience you would offer a confused child, when you speak to your mistakes with the same forgiveness you would extend to a friend who stumbled, when you hold your imperfections with the same tenderness you would show to a wounded bird, then you begin to understand what the masters meant when they said that enlightenment is not a destination, but a way of traveling. Ah, night-blooming flower opens in the temple garden, teaching that beauty unfolds in its own perfect timing. There is a secret that the harsh voices of self-criticism don't want you to discover, that you change most easily and naturally from a place of acceptance rather than resistance, from love rather than judgment, from gentle encouragement rather than forceful demand. Like a plant that grows toward light rather than away from darkness, your soul flourishes in the warm sunshine of self-compassion and withers in the cold shadow of self-attack. Does not mean becoming complacent or indulgent. A gardener who loves their plants still prunes them when necessary, still provides structure and boundaries, still tends to their needs with skill and attention. But this care comes from love, not condemnation, from a deep appreciation for the plant's essential nature and a desire to help it express its fullest potential. Your breath becomes a lullaby, sung by the tender mother heart to the child soul that lives within Dot in the Tibetan tradition. There is a meditation where you visualize yourself as a small child, perhaps at an age when you felt most vulnerable, most in need of protection and unconditional love. You see this child clearly, the particular sweetness of their face, the trust in their eyes, the innocent hope that still believed the world was fundamentally safe and good. Dot. Now imagine that your present self, with all the wisdom and strength you have gained through years of living, approaches this child with infinite gentleness. You kneel down to their level. You speak in the softest voice. You offer exactly the kind of love and reassurance that this tender being most needs to hear. You are precious exactly as you are, you might whisper. You don't need to be perfect to be worthy of love. You don't need to achieve anything special to deserve peace. Your very existence is a gift to the world, and I will never abandon you, no matter what mistakes you make or how many times you stumble. In this holy imagination, the circle of self-compassion completes itself, healing wounds that have waited lifetimes to be tended. This is not mere visualization. This is the recognition of a truth that has always been present, but often forgotten, that you carry within yourself both the wounded child who needs love and the wise adult who can provide it. You are both the student and the teacher, the patient and the healer, the seeker and the sanctuary. When you focus on your own life from this place of self-compassion, it is no longer the harsh spotlight of self-improvement that burns away all tenderness, but the gentle morning light that helps everything grow naturally toward its own unique flowering. You become like the river that loves its own flowing, the mountain that embraces its own height, the star that shines with its own particular light without apology or explanation. Let sleep come now like the most gentle blessing, carrying you deeper into the arms of your own infinite kindness. Asterisk. In the hour when night reaches its deepest point, when even dreams begin to dream themselves, we arrive at the most paradoxical of all teachings. There is an ancient art, practiced in monasteries, hidden among mountain peaks where clouds birth themselves from stone and silence, where monks learn to hold life so lightly that it never slips through their fingers, yet so completely that nothing is ever truly lost. This art has many names: non-attachment, letting go, sacred releasing, but its essence is simpler than its words. The recognition that true possession comes only through complete surrender. Imagine a child playing by a stream, gathering smooth pebbles in her small cupped hands. The more tightly she grips them, the more they spill between her fingers. But when she holds them gently, with palms open and relaxed, they rest securely in the natural cradle of her hands. She possesses them most completely when she is most willing to let them go. The sound of water over stones carries the eternal teaching of flow and release. This is the mystery you encounter when you truly begin to focus on your own life rather than the lives of others. That the very act of grasping, whether it be grasping for outcomes, for recognition, for some idealized version of yourself, or for the spiritual achievements that seem to come so easily to others, creates the suffering you seek to escape. The tighter you grip your life, trying to force it into the shape you think it should take, the more it struggles and resists, like a bird held too firmly in anxious hands. In the Zen gardens of old Kyoto, there grew bamboo that the gardeners called teacher of flexibility. During fierce winter storms, while rigid trees cracked and fell, this bamboo would bend so completely that its crown nearly touched the earth, yet never break. In spring, it would slowly straighten, unmarked by the tempest that had passed through. It like water through a sieve. Wind moves through. Bamboo groves with the sound of gentle surrender. The monks would sit among this bamboo during meditation, learning its wordless teaching. That strength comes not from rigidity, but from the willingness to yield, that survival requires not the armor of hardness, but the wisdom of flexibility. They learn to hold their spiritual aspirations like the bamboo holds, its relationship with wind fully engaged, yet never attached. Deeply rooted, yet infinitely responsive. When you focus on your own life from this place of sacred flexibility, you discover something extraordinary, that letting go of how you think your life should unfold actually allows it to unfold in ways more beautiful than anything you could have planned. Like a master calligrapher who must release control of each brushstroke to allow the true artwork to emerge, you must release your tight grip on outcomes to allow your authentic life to paint itself across the canvas of time. A temple cat walks across moonlit stones, each step both purposeful and utterly relaxed. This letting go is not passive resignation, not the collapse of caring or the abandonment of all effort. It is something far more sophisticated, the recognition that your deepest fulfillment comes not from getting what you want, but from wanting what arises. Not from controlling the river of your existence, but from learning to swim gracefully in whatever currents appear. In the high mountains of Tibet, there lived a hermit who had mastered this art so completely that visitors described him as simultaneously the most engaged and most detached person they had ever met. He would tend his small garden with meticulous care, yet remain undisturbed when hail destroyed months of work in a single afternoon. He would offer profound teachings to those who sought his wisdom, yet felt no ownership of the words that flowed through him like wind through an empty flute. Prayer flags fluttered in the mountain air, releasing their blessings into the infinite sky. When students asked him how this was possible, he would point to the prayer flags strung around his hermitage. See how they offer their prayers to the wind without clinging to where those prayers will travel. See how they fade and fray, yet continue their sacred work until the very moment they dissolve back into the earth. This is how to live completely, present to your purpose, yet holding that purpose so lightly that it can transform or disappear without breaking your heart. This hermit had discovered what the ancient texts call the middle way, not the extremes of either desperate grasping or indifferent withdrawal, but the exquisite balance of caring deeply while holding outcomes lightly. Like a master archer who draws the bow with complete focus, yet releases the arrow with total surrender. He engaged fully with life, while remaining unattached to results. In the soft darkness, you feel your own grip on outcomes beginning to loosen. Like fingers relaxing after holding too tightly for too long. When you apply this teaching to the practice of focusing on your own life, it revolutionizes everything. Instead of gripping your spiritual progress with white knuckles, comparing it obsessively to others' apparent achievements, you learn to tend your inner garden with the same gentle attention you might give to morning glory vines, watering them consistently, providing what support you can. then trusting the intelligence of growth itself to unfold the blooms in their own perfect timing, you begin to understand that your life is not a problem to be solved through spiritual achievement, but a mystery to be lived with ever-deepening presence. The question is no longer, how can I become enlightened like them? But how can I most fully inhabit this particular life I have been given, with all its unique joys and sorrows, its specific challenges and gifts? Incense smoke rises and disperses, teaching the beauty of form that knows its own impermanence. There is a profound freedom that comes with this releasing, the freedom of no longer needing to be anywhere other than where you are, no longer needing to be anyone other than who you are, no longer needing your life to look like anyone else's life to be worthy of celebration. Like autumn leaves that release their grip on branches and discover they can fly, you discover that letting go of who you think you should be allows who you actually are to emerge with surprising grace. This does not mean abandoning all goals or living without direction. A river has a destination, the sea, yet it does not force its way there in a straight line. It follows the natural contours of the landscape, sometimes meandering through wide valleys, sometimes rushing through narrow canyons, always responsive to what is, always finding its way to where it belongs. Your breath becomes a practice of letting go, each exhale a small death, each inhale a small birth, each cycle teaching the rhythm of release and renewal. In the deepest teachings of the Buddha, there is a recognition that suffering comes not from impermanence itself, but from our resistance to impermanence, our desperate attempts to make permanent what is inherently flowing and changing. When you truly focus on your own life, you begin to see that this life you are trying so hard to perfect, to control, to compare with others, is itself a temporary gift, a brief flowering in the eternal garden of existence. This recognition brings not despair, but profound tenderness, the way you might feel watching a sunset, knowing its beauty lies partly in its fleeting nature. You begin to hold your own existence with the same gentle appreciation, no longer demanding that it last forever or look a certain way, but grateful for the simple miracle of being here at all, for this brief opportunity to experience consciousness, to love, to grow, to contribute your own unique note to the vast symphony of being. Like prayer flags that continue blessing the world even as they fade, your own life continues its sacred work, needing no permanence to be perfect. In the deepest chamber of night, where silence becomes a living presence and darkness reveals itself as the womb of all light, we approach the mystery that has no name. There comes a moment in every sincere seeker's journey, not dramatic like lightning splitting the sky, but gentle like dawn touching mountain peaks, when the very questions that have driven the spiritual search begin to dissolve into something beyond. Questioning. This is not the end of seeking, but its transformation into being. Not the achievement of freedom, but the recognition that freedom has always been your most intimate nature. Picture, if you will, a bird that has spent its entire life in a golden cage, dreaming of flight, studying the movements of wild birds through the window, practicing wing exercises, reading every text about the art of soaring. Then one morning, it notices something that changes everything. The cage door has always been open, not recently opened, not opened by some external liberator, but open since the very beginning, open before the bird even learned the word cage. Wind moves through open spaces, carrying the fragrance of possibility. This is the nature of what the ancient teachings call awakening, not the acquisition of some new spiritual skill, not the achievement of a special state of consciousness, but the simple, startling recognition that the prison you thought confined you was made of imagination, that the separation between yourself and freedom was a mirage, that the peace you sought in a distant tomorrow has been breathing you this entire time. When you truly focus on your own life from this place of recognition, comparison with others becomes not just unnecessary, but impossible. Like trying to compare the wetness of one wave with another when you recognize that all waves are expressions of the same ocean. The question is no longer, how do I become as enlightened as them? But how could I have ever believed I was anything other than this boundless awareness that dreams itself as a person seeking enlightenment? A temple bell rings in the distance. Its sound both arrival and departure, both question and answer. In the mountain caves of ancient India, there lived a sage who had realized this truth so completely that visitors would find him laughing at the most unexpected moments, not the laughter of hysteria or madness, but something deeper, like the earth itself chuckling at some cosmic joke too vast for words. When pressed to explain his mirth, he would say, "I spent 30 years trying to find myself, only to discover I was never lost. I spent decades seeking God, only to realize I was that which I sought. I exhausted myself pursuing enlightenment, only to wake up to the fact that I was already awake, dreaming that I was asleep." This laughter was not cruel toward those still caught in the dream of seeking. It was infinitely compassionate, like a mother's gentle amusement when her child searches frantically for the toy that has been in their hand all along. The sage understood that the seeking itself was sacred, that every step of the spiritual journey was perfect and necessary, even especially the steps that seemed to lead nowhere. Moonbeams dance on temple walls, teaching that light and shadow are partners in the same eternal dance. He would tell visitors about the day his seeking ended, not with a bang, but with a whisper so soft it could barely be called a realization. He had been sitting by a stream, once again lost in the familiar torment of spiritual inadequacy, comparing his inner state to the descriptions he had read of enlightened masters, when a leaf fell from an overhead branch and landed on the water's surface. In that moment, he saw something that stopped his mind completely. The leaf did not struggle against the current, did not compare itself to other leaves, did not worry about where the stream was taking it. It simply floated completely, present to each moment of its journey, neither resisting nor forcing, neither ahead of itself nor behind. And in seeing this, he recognized his own true nature, this natural, effortless being that had never been absent, never been broken, never needed fixing or improving or comparing. The sound of water carries the teaching that flow requires no effort, yet accomplishes everything. This is what they call Buddha nature, he would whisper to students who came seeking the secret of enlightenment. Not some special attainment reserved for the spiritually gifted, but the natural state of awareness when it stops trying to be other than what it is. Like space that doesn't strive to be spacious. Like silence that doesn't work to be quiet. Like your own heart that doesn't practice beating, just this ordinary miracle of being aware, being present, being alive, without needing to be better at it. But here was the most beautiful part of his teaching. He never suggested that the seeking phase was a mistake or that people should stop their spiritual practices. Instead, he would point out that even the seeking was an expression of enlightenment. Even the comparison was consciousness exploring itself. Even the feeling of separation was wholeness playing hide and seek with itself. A night-blooming flower opens in perfect darkness, teaching that some truths reveal themselves only when all seeking has been surrendered. Focus on your own life, he would say, not because others' lives are irrelevant, but because there is only one life appearing as countless expressions. When you tend to your own inner garden, you are tending to the one garden. When you make peace with your own storms, you are healing the storm that appears to rage everywhere. When you recognize your own Buddha nature, you are recognizing the Buddha nature that looks out through every pair of eyes. This understanding brought with it a profound relaxation, not the relaxation of collapse or indifference, but the relaxation of coming home after a long journey to discover that home had been traveling with you all along. Like an actor who has been so immersed in their role that they forgot they were acting, suddenly remembering they are not the character, but the consciousness playing the character. You realize you are not the seeker, but the awareness within which seeking appears. Your breath becomes the gentle rhythm of awakeness resting in itself, needing nothing, lacking nothing, complete in each moment. From this place of recognition, focusing on your own life takes on an entirely different quality. It becomes not the desperate project of self-improvement, but the loving attention of awareness, getting to know itself through this particular form, this unique perspective, this unrepeatable expression of the infinite. Like an artist who steps back to admire their painting, you begin to appreciate the masterpiece of your own existence, not because it matches some external standard of beauty, but because it is the universe's way of experiencing itself through these specific eyes, this particular heart, this one irreplaceable point of view. The questions that once tormented you, am I doing this right? Am I as advanced as they are? Why is my path so different from others? Dissolve like morning mist in sunlight, revealed as perfectly natural. Expressions of consciousness, exploring its own infinite creativity. You see that there was never anything wrong with having these questions, just as there is nothing wrong with a dream figure within a dream, wondering if they are dreaming correctly. In the vast spaciousness of this recognition, even the need to be free from seeking disappears, leaving only the natural spontaneity of being exactly what you are. This is true freedom, not the absence of experience, but the recognition that you are the awareness in which all experience appears and disappears. Not the elimination of the personal life, but the understanding that the personal life is how the impersonal expresses itself, uniquely through this particular constellation of consciousness. Not the end of caring about your own growth and well-being, but the expansion of your own to include everything that exists within the infinite space of your true nature. Let this understanding settle into the deepest places of your being, like honey dissolving in warm milk, sweetening everything it touches. In the hour before dawn, when the world holds its breath between sleeping and waking, there exists a quality of silence so profound that it seems to have weight, presence, almost a personality of its own. This is the silence that the ancient masters knew as the ground, from which all sound emerges and to which it returns. The stillness that underlies all movement, like the canvas beneath a painting, invisible yet essential, supporting every brushstroke of existence. It is not the mere absence of noise, but the pregnant emptiness from which all creation springs, the womb of space itself, forever giving birth to stars and galaxies, and the small miracle of your own breathing. Imagine a mountain lake at dawn, its surface so perfectly still that it becomes a mirror for the sky. Every cloud, every bird, every shaft of sunlight is reflected with absolute clarity. Yet the lake itself remains unchanged by what appears upon its surface. The reflections come and go, sometimes stormy, sometimes peaceful, sometimes brilliant, with sunrise colors, but the lake's essential nature, its capacity to reflect, its deep stillness, remains constant. The sound of your own heartbeat becomes the gentle drum that has accompanied you through every moment of this incarnation. This lake is your true nature, not the personal self with its history and preferences and spiritual aspirations, but the aware presence that witnesses all of these arising and passing away. You are not the clouds of thought that drift across the sky of consciousness, not the waves of emotion that disturb the surface of being, not even the spiritual seeker who compares their inner weather to that of others. You are the stillness itself, the unchanging awareness in which all experience appears. In the Zen monasteries of ancient China, there was a practice known as just sitting, shikantaza, that pointed directly to this recognition. Unlike other forms of meditation that involved watching the breath or contemplating koans or cultivating particular states, this practice was the art of being so completely present that presence itself became the meditation. Not presence to something, but presence as the very ground of being. Temple bells ring once across the valley, their bronze voices dissolving into the silence that birthed them. The monks who mastered this practice discovered something extraordinary. that beneath all the activity of seeking and achieving, beneath all the noise of comparison and judgment, beneath even the thoughts about enlightenment and the desire to focus properly on one's own life, there existed this unshakable stillness that had never been disturbed by any of it. Like this eye of a hurricane that remains perfectly calm while winds rage around it. This stillness was not something they achieved, but something they always already were. One of these masters, a woman known as Silent Moon, would sit for hours without moving, yet visitors described her as radiating more life and vitality than people who were constantly in motion. When asked about her practice, she would say, "I don't practice stillness. I notice that stillness is practicing me. I don't cultivate presence. I recognize that presence is the field in which cultivation appears. I don't achieve peace. I remember that peace is what I am when I stop trying to be anything else." A temple cat settles into perfect rest, teaching the art of being completely relaxed, yet completely alert. This pointing to stillness is your fundamental nature, revolutionizes the entire approach to spiritual practice. Instead of seeing yourself as someone who must work to achieve inner peace, you begin to recognize yourself as the peace in which all work appears. Instead of comparing your level of tranquility to that of others, you realize that you are the unchanging awareness in which all levels of tranquility and disturbance play out their temporary dramas. When you focus on your own life from this recognition of your still center, everything changes while nothing changes. Your daily activities continue: eating, sleeping, working, relating, but they arise now from stillness rather than from the restless seeking that once drove them. Like movements in a dance that spring from a centered, balanced place, your actions become expressions of presence rather than attempts to find presence. Wind moves through bamboo with the sound of hoof. Ancient wisdom being whispered from leaf to leaf is a teaching story from the Sufi tradition about a man who spent years traveling from teacher to teacher, seeking the secret of inner peace. Each master he met seemed to possess an unshakable calm, a quality of presence that made their very being into a sanctuary. "What is your practice?" he would ask, and each would give a different answer. Some spoke of prayer, others of service, still others of contemplation or whirling or the repetition of sacred names. Finally, exhausted by his searching, he sat down by a roadside to rest. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of rose and gold. A gentle breeze stirred the grass around him. Somewhere in the distance, a nightingale began to sing. And in that moment, without any technique or practice or effort, he found himself completely present, completely still, completely at peace. This is the paradox of stillness. The more you seek it, the more it eludes you. The more you relax into what is already here, the more it reveals itself as your very essence. He realized then that every master he had visited was simply resting in this same natural stillness that was now revealing itself to him by the roadside. Their different practices were like different doorways leading into the same vast room, like different paths up the same mountain, like different words pointing to the same wordless truth. The secret he had been seeking was not a technique to acquire, but a recognition of what had never been absent. From that evening forward, his approach to spiritual life transformed completely. Instead of trying to cultivate stillness, he simply noticed when he had forgotten it. Instead of comparing his inner state to that of realized masters, he recognized that he and they shared the same essential nature, this aware stillness that remains untouched by whatever appears within it. Your breath deepens into the rhythm of eternity itself, each inhale and exhale surfing on waves of infinite space. This recognition brings with it a profound shift in how you relate to your own spiritual journey. The urgent sense that you must achieve something, become someone, reach some distant state of enlightenment begins to dissolve like morning mist. Not because you become complacent or cease to grow, but because you realize that what you were seeking was never actually absent. And therefore, the frantic quality of seeking can relax into a more natural unfolding. You begin to understand that focusing on your own life is not about perfecting yourself according to some spiritual ideal, but about allowing your life to express itself from this place of fundamental stillness. Like a flower that blooms not by forcing itself open, but by relaxing into its natural tendency toward light, you discover that your most authentic spiritual development happens when you stop pushing and start allowing. Stop achieving and start being. Docked in the temple of your own heart, candles flicker without effort, flames rising toward heaven while rooted in earth, teaching the dance of presence. The ancient Vedic seers spoke of this stillness as Sat Chit Ananda, existence, consciousness, bliss, not as three separate qualities, but as one undivided reality experienced from different angles. You are not someone who exists. You are existence itself, appearing as this temporary form. You are not someone who is conscious. You are consciousness itself, looking out through these particular eyes. You are not someone seeking bliss. You are the bliss that seeks to know itself through the full spectrum of human experience. When this understanding dawns, the whole question of comparing yourself to others reveals itself as a kind of cosmic joke. It is like one wave asking another wave how to be more oceanic, or one flame wondering how to be more like fire. The very capacity to compare, to question, to seek, arises from the same stillness that you imagine yourself lacking. The seeker and the sought, the meditator and the meditation, the one who focuses on their life and the life being focused upon, all are movements within the same unchanging awareness. Rest now in this recognition. Like a weary traveler finally arriving home to discover they never actually left. In the deepest hours of night, when time itself seems to slow and thicken like honey, we come to perhaps the most tender of all teachings, the recognition that everything you love, everything you are, everything you have ever known is flowing like water through cupped hands. This is not a teaching about loss, though loss is woven through it like silver threads through dark cloth. This is a teaching about the sacred nature of change itself, about how the very impermanence that seems to threaten your security is actually the source of life's infinite creativity, its endless capacity to surprise and renew and transform what seems solid into something altogether unexpected. Imagine standing by the ocean at twilight, watching waves approach the shore in their eternal rhythm. Each wave is unique, shaped by winds you cannot see, carrying stories from distant storms, gathering foam and salt and fragments of shell as it travels. For a brief moment, it rises to its full height, magnificent and powerful, catching the last light of day. Then it releases itself completely, dissolving back into the sea that created it, already becoming the next wave, and the next in an endless dance of form and formlessness. The sound of waves carries the ancient teaching that nothing is permanent, yet nothing is ever truly lost. You, dear friend, are like one of these waves, a unique expression of the infinite ocean of consciousness, temporarily taking form, playing your particular role in the vast symphony of existence. The wave does not cling to its shape, does not compare itself to other waves, does not resist the moment when it must return to the sea. It simply rides its brief journey with complete presence, fully itself, until the very moment it becomes something else entirely. When you truly focus on your own life from this understanding of impermanence, something miraculous happens. The desperate grip of trying to make permanent what is inherently flowing begins to relax. The anxious comparison with others, their achievements, their apparent peace, their seeming permanence, dissolves into the recognition that you are all waves in the same ocean, all temporary forms of the same eternal dance. A temple bell rings in the distance, its bronze voice teaching that even the most beautiful sounds must fade to make space for silence. In the mountain monasteries of Tibet, there is a practice called death meditation that might sound morbid to those who have never understood its true purpose. But those who practice it discover that contemplating the reality of impermanence, not with morbid fascination, but with gentle acceptance, actually makes life more vivid, more precious, more worth living fully in each present moment. The monks would sit quietly at dawn as the first light touched the prayer flags strung between ancient buildings and contemplate a simple truth. This body that breathes, these thoughts that arise, this particular constellation of memories and dreams and hopes, all of this is temporary. All of this will pass away like morning mist when the sun rises high enough. Wind moves through prayer flags with the sound of countless small surrenders, each flutter a practice of letting go. But rather than filling them with despair, this contemplation filled them with a profound tenderness for the preciousness of this moment, this breath, this particular arrangement of consciousness that would never exist again in exactly this way. Like someone who discovers they have only one day left in a foreign city they love, they began to see their daily life with fresh eyes, to notice details they had previously overlooked, to taste each experience more fully because they knew it was temporary. One of these monks, an elderly woman known as Sister Impermanence, would tell visitors, "When you truly understand that this life is like a shooting star across the sky of eternity, brilliant, brief, and unrepeatable, you stop wasting time comparing your light to other stars. You simply shine with whatever brightness is yours to give, knowing that your particular radiance is both fleeting and eternal, temporary and sacred." Incense smoke rises and disperses, teaching that even the most beautiful offerings must dissolve to complete their purpose. She would point to the butter lamps that flickered in the shrine room, each one burning steadily until its fuel was consumed. See how each flame burns completely, holding nothing back, not trying to conserve itself for some future moment? This is how to live with the understanding of impermanence, not partially, not with one foot held back from full engagement, but completely present to whatever is arising now. This teaching transforms the entire question of focusing on your own life versus others' lives. When you realize that all lives are equally temporary, equally precious, equally unrepeatable expressions of the same eternal mystery, comparison becomes not just unnecessary, but impossible. It is like trying to compare one sunset with another. When you understand that each is a unique performance that will never be repeated exactly the same way. A night-blooming flower opens in the temple garden, knowing its beauty will last only until dawn, yet blooming with absolute completeness. From this understanding emerges what the Buddhist texts call urgency without anxiety, a quality of engagement that is both deeply committed and completely relaxed. You care intensely about your own growth, your own service, your own authentic expression of life, not because these things will last forever, but precisely because they won't. Like a master calligrapher who knows each brushstroke is irreversible, you bring complete attention to each moment of your temporary existence. The ancient Sufi poet Rumi captured this paradox in words that have echoed through centuries. Try not to resist the changes that come your way. Instead, let life live through you. And do not worry that your life is turning upside down. How do you know that the side you are used to is better than the one to come? Cherry blossoms fall in the moonlight, each petal a small teaching about beauty that knows its own transience. This perspective reveals something profound about what it means to focus on your own life. It is not about preserving or perfecting some fixed self, but about allowing life to flow through you as fully as possible during your brief time as this particular wave in the ocean of existence. Like a flute that serves music best by remaining hollow, you serve life best by remaining open to constant change, constant becoming, constant willingness to be transformed by whatever wants to emerge through you. The Indian sage Nisargadatta Maharaja once said, "You are not what you take yourself to be. Find out what you are. Watch the sense I am, find your real self, and all else will come to you of its own accord. This finding of your real self is not the discovery of some permanent, unchanging entity, but the recognition of yourself as the very principle of change itself, the awareness in which all transformations appear, the stillness that dances as. All movement / your breath becomes a teacher of impermanence, each inhale bringing new life, each exhale releasing what no longer serves. When this understanding penetrates deeply enough, you discover that impermanence is not the enemy of happiness, but its very foundation. How could you appreciate the warmth of spring without having experienced winter's cold? How could you treasure moments of connection without knowing the reality of separation? How could you value this particular configuration of consciousness, called your life, without understanding that it is a once-in-eternity event that will never occur again? From this place of deep acceptance of change, focusing on your own life becomes an act of profound service to the whole. You are not focusing on yourself because you are separate from others, but because you recognize that you are the universe's way of knowing itself through this unique perspective, this unrepeatable angle of vision, this particular quality of consciousness that only you can offer to the totality of existence. Like a candle that illuminates the darkness, not by fighting against it, but by offering its own small light, you begin to see that your authentic presence is your greatest gift. As a night reaches its deepest flowering, when even the stars seem to lean closer to whisper their ancient secrets, we arrive at the most intimate teaching of all, the recognition that you are not a fixed self-seeking improvement, but an infinite creative principle eternally discovering what it means to be human. In the secret gardens of Sufi mystics, where roses bloom in spirals that mirror the whirling dance of consciousness itself, there grows a flower known only in the most hidden texts as the bloom of endless beginning. This flower is said to never complete its blooming. Each moment it opens a little more, revealing new colors that have never been seen before, releasing fragrances that speak directly to the soul in languages that have no words. The gardeners who tend this mythical flower understand something that most miss, that its beauty lies not in any final, perfected state, but in its eternal unfolding, its willingness to be forever becoming something new while remaining rooted in the same fertile darkness from which all growth springs. A temple cat stretches in moonlight, teaching the art of being completely present to the body's wisdom. You, beloved friend, are this flower. Your life is not a problem to be solved or a project to be completed, but an ongoing revelation of what it means for the infinite to know itself through the particular, for the eternal to experience itself through time, for the boundless to love itself through the beautiful limitations of form. When you focus on your own life from this understanding, everything shifts. You are no longer trying to become someone you are not, but allowing yourself to unfold into more and more of what you already are at the deepest level. Like a seed that contains within itself the entire potential of the mighty oak, you carry within your being possibilities that cannot be compared to anyone else's because they have never existed before and will never exist again. Wind chimes sing their ancient song, each note unique, yet part of an eternal melody. In the monasteries of ancient Burma, there lived a monk whose name has been forgotten, but whose teaching remains fresh as morning dew on lotus petals. He would sit with visitors in a garden where hundreds of different flowers bloomed, not arranged in neat rows like a formal garden, but growing wild and free, each finding its own way toward the light. "Look carefully," he would whisper, his voice barely audible above the humming of bees. "See how the jasmine does not try to bloom like the rose? Notice how the lotus does not compare its petals to the orchids. Each flower expresses the same life force, the same creative intelligence, yet each does so in its own irreplaceable way." He would pause, letting his words settle like evening mist on the garden. This is the secret of focusing on your own life, not because your life is separate from the one life that flowers as everything, but because your unique expression of that life is something the universe has never attempted before and will never attempt again. Night blooming Sirius opens its magnificent white petals, teaching that some truths reveal themselves only in the deepest darkness. A monk would tell the story of his own awakening, which came not through years of rigorous practice or dramatic spiritual experiences, but through the simple act of watching a spider spin its web at dawn. The spider did not consult any manual on web weaving, did not compare its technique to other spiders, did not worry whether its web was as beautiful or functional as those it had seen elsewhere. It simply spun, following the ancient wisdom encoded in its very being, creating something that was both perfectly ordinary and absolutely miraculous. In that moment, the monk would continue, I understood that I too am encoded with an ancient wisdom, a unique way of expressing the divine creativity that flows through all things. My spiritual practice was not about learning to be someone else, but about removing the obstacles that prevented this natural wisdom from expressing itself through me. A temple bell rings once, its bronze voice carrying the teaching that authenticity requires no effort, only recognition. This understanding reveals the deepest paradox of the spiritual path, that you must focus intensely on your own unique unfolding while simultaneously recognizing that there is no separate self to focus on. Like an actor who must fully inhabit their role while never forgetting they are acting, you must live your particular life completely while remembering that you are the universal consciousness playing at being human. From this recognition emerges what the mystics call divine ordinariness, the understanding that enlightenment is not an escape from your human life, but the complete embracing of it, not the transcendence of your personality, but its full integration with your deeper nature, not the elimination of your unique quirks and preferences, but their flowering as expressions of cosmic creativity. Moonbeams filter through temple windows, illuminating dust motes that dance like tiny galaxies in the sacred darkness. The Zen master Dogen wrote about this in his teachings on Just This Moment, the recognition that this particular configuration of thoughts, feelings, sensations, and circumstances that you call your life is actually the universe's way of experiencing itself right now, right here, through these specific eyes, this particular heart, this unrepeatable angle of awareness. When you truly understand this, the question of whether you are focusing too much on yourself or not enough on others dissolves like salt in water. You realize that tending to your own authentic becoming is the highest service you can offer to the whole, because you are the only one who can offer this particular gift of consciousness to the vast symphony of existence. A nightingale begins to sing from the temple garden, its voice weaving melodies that seem to come from beyond the world, yet speak directly to the heart. This is why the ancient teachings speak of svadharma, your own unique duty or nature is sacred, not because it makes you special or separate, but because it is your irreplaceable contribution to the infinite creativity of life itself. Like one note in a cosmic symphony, your authentic expression is both utterly individual and completely interconnected with the whole composition. The Sufi poet Hafez captured this mystery in verses that have echoed through centuries. I wish I could show you, when you are lonely or in darkness, the astonishing light of your own being. This light is not something you achieve through spiritual practice, but something you uncover by removing the veils of comparison, judgment, and the attempt to be anyone other than exactly who you are. Your breath becomes a prayer that prays itself, each inhale receiving the gift of life, each exhale offering yourself back to the mystery that dreamed you into existence. As you rest here in this quiet space between waking and sleeping, let yourself feel the profound relief that comes with this understanding. You do not need to become enlightened like anyone else. You do not need to fix yourself or improve yourself or measure your progress against external standards. You need only to bloom slowly, naturally, completely into the fullness of what you already are. like the bloom of endless beginning in the mystic's garden. You are eternally unfolding, eternally revealing new dimensions of beauty, eternally discovering what it means to be this particular expression of the infinite. And in this endless becoming, there is no failure, no inadequacy, no wrong way to flower, only the eternal YES of existence, celebrating itself through the magnificent temporary form that is your precious, unrepeatable life. Rest now in this knowing, like a seed that trusts the darkness to transform it into whatever it is meant to become. And now, dear traveler of the inner paths, as our gentle journey through the landscape of wisdom draws to its natural close, we return to where we began, not as the same person who first settled into this quiet space, but as one who has remembered something ancient and beautiful about the nature of your own existence. The temple bells have grown quiet now. The incense has burned down to glowing embers. The night-blooming flowers have opened their hearts completely to the darkness, releasing their fragrances into air that carries the whispered prayers of countless seekers who have walked this path before you. And you rest here like a meditation, bell that has been struck and is still resonating with the truth that has always lived in the deepest chambers of your heart. A gentle breeze stirs the prayer flags, carrying blessings across sleeping valleys where other souls rest in their own perfect becoming. What have we discovered together in these quiet hours? We have seen that the ancient wisdom, focus on yourself, not others, is not a teaching about separation or selfishness, but about recognizing the sacred responsibility you have to tend your own inner garden, not because it is separate from the one garden, but because it is your unique section of that garden, the only part you are equipped to cultivate with the particular tools of your consciousness, your experience, your irreplaceable perspective on what it means to be alive. We have walked with Brother Quietheart and learned that each person's Buddha nature expresses itself in its own perfect way, like crickets singing their individual songs while creating one magnificent chorus. We have sat with Master Empty Cup and discovered that the spiritual path begins with emptying rather than filling, with unlearning rather than accumulating more knowledge about how others have found their way to peace. Temple cats settle into their favorite corners, teaching the art of complete contentment with what is, exactly as it is. We have met the laughing sage who showed us that the greatest joke in existence is how seriously we take our seeking, when what we seek is the seeker itself, the awareness that has never been absent, never been broken, never needed improvement or comparison to be perfectly whole. We have witnessed the ordinary one lotus, teaching that the most radical spiritual act is simply being completely yourself, without apology or enhancement. We have traveled inward to that place of stillness that you are, not the stillness you achieve, but the stillness that achieves everything, the unchanging awareness in which all change appears like weather patterns in an infinite sky. We have felt the river of self-compassion flowing through the landscape of your being, washing away the harsh voices that insisted you should be further along, more enlightened, closer to some imagined ideal. Prayer wheels turn slowly in the mountain. Monasteries, each revolution an offering of the same truth, that all paths lead home to what was never lost. We have learned the art of sacred releasing, understanding that true possession comes only through complete surrender, that the tighter you grip your life trying to force it into some predetermined shape, the more it struggles and resists like a bird held too firmly in anxious hands. We have recognized that you are not the wave comparing itself to other waves, but the ocean itself, playing at being a wave for the sheer joy of temporary form. We have touched the mystery of impermanence and discovered that it is not the enemy of happiness, but its very foundation, that your life gains its preciousness precisely from its temporary nature. Like a shooting star, it blazes across the sky of eternity with unrepeatable brilliance. We have seen yourself as the bloom of endless beginning, eternally unfolding into more of what you have always been, never finished, never complete, always becoming something new while remaining rooted in the same eternal ground. Night birds call to each other across the darkness, their voices weaving a lullaby that has been sung since the beginning of time. All of these teachings, beloved friend, point to one simple recognition that can transform your entire relationship with existence. That focusing on your own life is not about becoming someone other than who you are, but about becoming so completely, authentically, unapologetically yourself that the question of comparison with others simply dissolves. Like a candle that illuminates the darkness, not by trying to be the sun, but by burning with its own perfect flame, you serve the world most completely by offering the gift that only you can give, your own authentic presence, your own unique angle of love, your own irreplaceable way of being conscious. When you rest in this understanding, the spiritual path reveals itself not as a ladder to climb or a race to win, but as a spiral dance of coming home to yourself again and again, each return deeper and more complete than the last. You are not seeking enlightenment. You are enlightenment seeking to know itself through the beautiful adventure of being human, of forgetting and remembering, of losing and finding, of sleeping and awakening in the endless play of consciousness. With itself, the monastery settles into deeper silence, holding space for the dreams that will carry forward the wisdom received in waking. God, thank you, dear friend, for sharing this quiet path with me tonight. Thank you for your willingness to sit in the darkness and listen for the whispers of ancient wisdom. Thank you for your courage in turning toward your own heart, your own life, your own authentic becoming. In a world that often encourages you to look everywhere but within, you have chosen the most radical path of all, the path home to yourself. As you prepare to release yourself into sleep, carry with you this knowing that every breath you take is sacred, every thought that arises is part of the cosmic dream, every feeling that moves through you is the universe, exploring its own infinite emotional spectrum through the exquisite sensitivity of your human heart. You are not a mistake to be corrected or a problem to be solved, but a mystery to be lived, a song to be sung, a story to be told with complete presence and deep, abiding love. The temple bells are silent now, but their teaching continues in the rhythm of your own peaceful breathing. May you sleep tonight wrapped in the understanding that you are exactly where you need to be on your unique journey home to yourself. May your dreams be filled with the gentle light of self-compassion, and may you wake tomorrow a little more, willing to bloom as only you can bloom, to shine as only you can shine, to love as only you can love. Wherever you rest your head tonight, whether in a humble room or a palace, whether alone or surrounded by loved ones, whether in comfort or in difficulty, may peace find you there. May the Dharma light your dreams with the recognition that you are not separate from the light, but are the light itself, temporarily forgetting its luminous nature, so it can experience the joy of remembering. May all beings be happy. May all beings be at peace. May all beings recognize their own Buddha nature, flowering in its own perfect way. And may you, precious friend, rest tonight in the absolute certainty that you are loved exactly as you are, that your existence is a gift to the world, and that your own quiet awakening is a blessing to all life everywhere. The night embraces you now like the most tender mother, holding you safe while you journey into the mysterious realms where all wisdom is born. Good night, dear traveler. Good night, and be well. Sleep peacefully in the garden of your own infinite being, and know that tomorrow the path continues, not toward some distant destination, but deeper into the sacred ordinary mystery of being exactly, perfectly, beautifully, you. In the silence that follows, only love remains.